YouTube and our Comanche orientation series. So our last flight, we did a simple VFR orientation from Pensacola Roscoe Field over to Dauphin Island. Covered basic normal checklists from startup to all the way through shutdown. Normal approach and landing with a pattern. Today, we're going to sort of go a little bit deeper into Comanche with concentration on landings. So our plan for today is we're going to depart runway 30 out of Dauphin Island. Going to head out over Mobile Bay where there's no airspace, climb up to around 4,000 feet. Then we're going to we're going to configure for slow flight in the landing configuration. It's a very common thing you would do in an aircraft checkout. So we're going to configure to slow flight. We're going to do some power off stalls. After we do one or two of those, we're going to demonstrate an elevator trim stall, which is definitely a consideration in an airplane like the 250 Comanche that has a lot of power available on a go-around. Recovering from that elevator trim stall, we'll reconfigure back to cruise or maneuvering configuration clean, do some steep turns, and then work our way up to Mobile International, otherwise known as Brookley Field, old Air Force Base, home of Continental Motors, also home of the giant Airbus factory. And the reason we're going up there is they have a huge ex-Air Force Base runway, so we can do some landing practice where we don't have to be quite as focused on our spot. We can be a little more focused on learning sort of landing attitudes in the Comanche, which is really, I'd say, one of the key parts of landing the Comanche well. So let's go ahead and jump into the airplane. We've already made it through the run-up, so we're up to the before takeoff checklist. If you're flying the A2A Comanche and you'd like my checklist, the download link for that is in this video description. It's designed to be printed on 2 sheets of letter paper, each sheet folded in half, and you can laminate it. Includes the cruise power chart, and it's a great handy reference whether you're in the sim or the real airplane. Half sheets, perfect for a kneeboard, or perfect to sit. Actually, I'll show you. Right up here over top of the sun visor is this little headliner steel aluminum support. Checklist slide right in there really well. All right, before takeoff, doors and windows are shut. Engine instruments, we've got oil temp coming up in the green, oil pressure, fuel pressure, all looks good. Trim, very important. Need to set that for takeoff, so back to neutral. Flaps, this will be a normal takeoff, so flaps are up. We can also visually confirm that. Look out at the wing. Fixtures rich, props forward. And since we're basically already right here at the end of the runway, we'll go ahead and turn the fuel pump on, get our landing light strobes on. P-dot heat will not be required for this takeoff. Housekeeping, we do have Brookley dialed into the GPS. That's just keep us oriented. So, and it's off basically not just a little east of north. So again, we won't be needing that for a little bit, but we'll set it up so it's ready for us. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out again. So as we do this takeoff, it's a little easier if you want to see where the controls are moving and the different switches. All right, Mr. Flight Sim 2024 line guy, let's get you out of the way. All right, finals clear. We'd make our traffic call here on Unicom. I've set the winds to be at about 320 at 7, so taking off runway 30 here, we have a little bit of crosswind from the right, and then a little bit of wind, but no crosswind up at Brookley. Get ourselves lined up. You can see the sock there off to the left. And here we go. All right, we've got full manifold pressure, full RPM. Get that right rudder in. Airspeed is live. Rotate about 80. Good clean brake, positive rate. Gears coming up. Let the airplane accelerate to 105 is our best rate. Again, realistically, unless you need max performance Comanche, usually you're going to let it blow right through that 105, headed to about 120 for a cruise climb, good cooling. Looking at that, oil pressures come up, but not excessive. All our temps are going to be fine. Coming out of 1,000 feet, we're going to hit that fuel pump off. Confirm gears up amber. Start a slight turn out over the bay. Keep ourselves away from Mobile's Class C airspace. There is quite a bit of military training that happens out over the bay here, and a lot of traffic that's crisscrossing across the south end of the bay between the various Navy bases, as well as a lot of civilian flight trainings. You definitely have to stay on top of see and avoid out here, as well as watching your ADS-B. Mobile's radar and radio coverage also limited out here below about 2,000 feet, so generally they will not want to offer flight following. If you basically, as you descend into Dauphin Island, they'll usually cancel your flight following somewhere departing or descending out of 2,000. All right, this is probably a good heading for now. And we're going to climb up to about 4,500 for this air work. Again, our goal here is to get a sense of trim forces, how she handles at near the stall speed in the landing configuration. This helps provide a feel so that when you get actual into landings, you sort of have some muscle memory about what to expect. All right, approaching that altitude. You don't necessarily want to really accelerate, so yeah, bring her back to about 16 inches, which would be where we might be approaching into a pattern, slowing down to gear speed clean. We're going to have that prop down around 2,300 RPM. And we're going to lean her out for a minute. Get her a little more trim. For level flight, she's going to need a good amount of nose down trim, even here. All right, we're on a good heading for now. So say we're going to set up for landing. So we're going to do our landing checklist. That's going to be mixture rich. It's going to be prop forward. We're going to drop the landing gear. We'll get a momentary pitch up as the gear comes down. Gear's down in green. We're into the white arcs. Get one notch flaps. Pull back to about 12 inches of manifold pressure, simulating a glide. Get the rest of the flaps out here. We can confirm that. We've got 30 degrees or full flaps out. And what we should be looking at here is trimming for about 82 miles an hour. The 1.3 VSO at gross weight. Today we're going to use gross weight numbers. Another lesson we'll talk about how in the Comanche you might want to adjust those numbers based on your expected landing weight, particularly for short field operations. And again, should find power off glide, probably holding about level to the horizon in terms of attitude. Letting that airspeed bleed off, trimming as we go. Bring the power back a little more. And we need to do better holding altitude. Comanche does not have an audible or oral stall warning horn. It has a stall warning light right there in between the HSI and the attitude indicator. That is the only indication other than buffet pre-stall. We get slowed down. We do have to add a little bit of right rudder, counteract P factor. And here we're established pretty good slow flight. Wanted to make some turns. You need to make them real gentle. We're right on the edge here. We get the light momentarily. And I'm still holding a little bit of right rudder even as I do this little left turn. Roll level. All right, let's simulate a landing. So we're going to pull the power back. And just back on the stick. There's the stall warning. And there's basically brake, recover is elevator in, brake that stall. Not adding, instead of here, we're not adding any power. Recovering with the elevator. Got plenty of altitude. Let's simulate that again. Landing attitude. Hold it off, hold it off. There's the brake. Elevator in. Get some speed. Recover. Now, it's this again, but let's turn this into a go-around. We're trimmed for a full flap, full stall landing. And what happens if we just really pour the power to it? Look at that. Lots of adverse yaw. Lots of pitch up going right into power on stall. Not where you want to be. Let's set back up again. Decide, let's power in. I didn't really follow with the rudder, so we got a bunch of left turning yaw. At the same time, our nose went sky high because of the trim forces. So how would you really recover or do a go around? Well, one thing you do is you can come in on the power. If we come into about 18 inches, because we're already at flying speed, we're well into the green and white arcs here. You get that gear up. That illuminates a massive amount of drag. We're already at positive rate. Get those flaps up. Now come in with the power. And all much more controllable, much slower changes. That's another reason when you're shooting instrument approach to the Comanche, highly recommend shooting those no flap. One less contributor to a big trim force change on a go around. All right, let's level at 4,000. And again, we're wanting to come up right around maneuvering speed. We'll do it, get trimmed out here, do a steep turns demonstration. So again, let's get RPM back to about 2,300. And we lean. We'll run in a lot of nose down trim out here. And we'll start we'll clear to the left, start working our way up towards Brookley. Certainly in the flight sim, you don't have quite the same sense of stalls as you do in the real airplane because you don't have true force feedback in the controls. But A2A has done a remarkable job of modeling the Comanche pretty well overall. And here, relaxing the stick, seeing again how my trim's looking. We're right at 144, right about maneuvering speed, which is where we want to be, or below for steep turns. Let's get ourselves lined up on west. Give ourselves a little help. We'll set the heading bug to west as well. All right. So we're going to do one to the left. We come out of that. After 360, we'll roll level and roll right into one to the right the other direction. Comanche doesn't, unlike a lot of trainer airplanes, Comanche does not need a lot of aft stick in these steep turns. Although needed a little more than I did. I'd say this sim is a little more sensitive than the real airplane. We need to go out and actually film some in the real airplane. But I don't need to add any power. I've got plenty of reserve power available. Coming up on 90 degrees to go. And at about 17 degrees, lead, roll out, unload. All right, so we came out about 8 degrees early. Let's settle on 3,900 and clear to the right. So this time, a little bit of up elevator as we come in. Relax that as we come out. Looking at that attitude out the window. And climbing in this one instead of descending. 90 degrees to go. Lead and out. There we go. Right on. Again, you need to unload, roll out so that you don't balloon up in altitude. And there you have it. Steep turns left and right in the Comanche, slow flight, power off stalls, trim stalls, go around. We're 18 miles from Brookley. Let's turn that direction. We got 3,000 feet to lose. So 3,000 times 3, about 10 miles out, add a couple miles. So we're just going to go ahead and start a leisurely descent. Out here, we're going to set up for left traffic, runway 32. Let's talk Comanche landings. Comanche has a laminar flow wing, which is designed shared with the P-51 Mustang, the Cessna Cardinal, the Mooney. These wings are very low drag, but they do not produce as much lift in a stalled condition. Which means in a landing in a Comanche, basically as you touch down, when you find the stall, if your height above runway is not set right, there's not really a bush. You can't just keep pulling back on the stick like you can in a lot of Cessnas and some of the other Piper trainers and sort of cushion your landing. So it's really important to have your landing height set up well. Complicating that, the Comanche wing sits very low to the ground, which means it gets very strong ground effects. As you come into ground effect, that reduces induced drag. And if you have excess speed, that means you're going to float. And remember, we said this is a low drag wing. So guess what? That's going to carry in. So it means you're going to be stuck in the float for a while as well. So speed control on landing Comanche is really important to minimize the chance for mischief. And the other thing in the Comanches is you get 30 degrees of flaps out, you have a fairly large pitch change. So you need a lot of nose-up trim. And, of course, you're, for the Comanche, relatively high drag at that point. So you also, as you flare, you're going to lose that speed faster. So with new pilots of Comanche, what I prefer is actually to let people do their first couple landings actually first with no flaps, and then go to 2/3 flaps, and then only once you're really comfortable with both of those, work on the full flap landings. Most runways, if they're 3,500 feet or longer, are plenty long to do a flaps 2 landing. Again, a lot lower pitch changes, pitch force changes, trim changes, and it just feels a little more like other similar airplanes in the flare. So this first one, we're going to do a flaps up landing. So you look at Comanche performance data, gross weight 1.3 times the stall speed clean is at 88 miles an hour. So we're basically going to be looking at 90 across the fence. Flare and hold it off. And this is, one of these reasons we're going to Brookley is they've got this big, long, wide runway. So while we're certainly going to aim for a touchdown zone aim point, the main thing we want to concentrate on is good speed control into the flare, and then holding that flare altitude all the way to touchdown, and then we've got plenty of room to clean up the we won't have flaps clean up on this one, but clean up the trim before we do the go. That looks good. We'll come around and demonstrate a 2/3 flaps landing, which is generally what I recommend unless you're going into a shorter field. Certainly what I recommend in any sort of crosswind. And then from there, we'll do the full flap landing. I'm just sort of setting myself up here just so we'll be aimed at a reasonable midfield downwind entry. It's a tower-controlled airport. From out here, they would almost certainly have told us to just report a left base, 432, or even a straight in, depending on what their other traffic was. We're also going to use the Garmin 750's visual approach feature. That's, again, we're not going to use that to fly these, but that'll be another indicator of sort of where we are relative to the 3-degree glide slope as we make these landings. Good reference point, sort of see what that sight picture should look like. Like I said, just for housekeeping, put in 320 on the HSI. When we get within 10 miles, the visual approach selector button is going to show up in our GPS map. You could go into the procedure now and load it manually, but the default in the settings, you can change this little visual approach appears at 10 miles. We want the visual 3.2. We want to activate that. And again, we're still easing down, coming up on the state docks. And Brookley up ahead on the horizon after the bridge. Once again, we're going to zoom out the cockpit just a little bit so we can see down to the landing gear switch and lights. Talking to the tower at this point, getting told again where to report in the pattern. And like I said, airport's off to our right, getting ourselves in a position to turn ourselves into the downwind at a good distance. Simulated Comanche, usually backing off somewhere in the 13 inches range. It's going to help slow us down to about 130 miles an hour for our landing gear extension. Downtown Mobile off in the distance. All right, from here, let's turn us out on the downwind. And landing checklist, mixture's rich, props forward, fuel pump on. Standing by on the landing gear. Adjacent that landing point, we're going to aim for that touchdown, nice big touchdown zone marked at 1,000 feet just in front of the wing. We're good speed for the gears. The gears coming down. Got gear down in green. The white arc. And that's right, we're doing flaps up this time. So we're just gonna, out here, let her decelerate about 100. we're a little wide, so let's go ahead and turn our base. Again, no flaps on this one, so we just keep it simple. Looking for around 100 till the final, and we're going to slow down to 90. Okay, a little low, so again, we'll just put a little power in. Turning final, verify 3 green, cleared for the option, 3-2. There's 90. And now we want to control. Get too low out here. Three green, cleared for the option. All right, coming across the threshold, ease that power back, ease us down. Onto the runway. We got a big runway, so here we're going to run the trim down. We'd look up. Flaps are already up. In on the power, in on the rudder. It's come in on the power. Be off in almost no time. Positive rate, bring the gear up. Alright, coming up on pattern altitude. Come back again to about 15 inches. Make our crosswind turn. Basically wanting to keep that airspeed right at 120 to 130. Alright, landing checklist. Fixtures still rich, prop still forward, fuel pump still on. We are standing by on the landing gear. Okay, so we're going to do 2/3 flaps on this one. So what we're going to do is adjacent our landing point. We're going to put the gear down. Here we are, gear's coming down. Gear's down in green, in the white arc. Go to flaps 1. And looking for about 100 on our glide. Turn our base. We're going to go to flaps 2. Visually confirm. And going for, again, 88 book speed. So about 90 is a good target till we're short final. Bring it around, we're a lot tighter in this time. There we go. Slight overshoot, not bad. Slightly high, better than being low. Yeah, we come out here, this big, long runway. Just little power, yeah, we're shallowing these out. Try and do better on the next one. Bring her in, flare. All right, so here we need to go flaps up, trim to neutral, and in on the rudder. Fly it off. Gears coming up. Again, that's something you can do in the sim. It's just go ahead and give yourself plenty of practice. Make this pattern a little more square this time. So again, coming through 800, we'll start our crosswind turn. From a pattern altitude, smoothly pull back. Roll out, still turn, a little overturn, roll out on our crosswind. So we can look on entry there. Now turn to the downwind. Roll out on that downwind. There we are. Landing check. We've got mixture rich, prop forward, fuel pumps on, standing by on the gear. There's our landing point. Gears coming down. Gear is down in green. Flaps 1. Turn our base. Go to flaps 2. final. Flaps 3. Confirm 3 green on final, clear to land, full stop 3-2. On glide slope, we're going to be slowing down to 82 across the fence. Look like around 11 inches is right about the sweet spot today for the temperature and the simulated weight. Definitely tell flaps full. We got a lot more drag. We're at a lot of power to sort of stay level and wait for these VASI lights to change colors again. There's one white. Second white, and ease that power back to about 11. Hold it off. Power's out. All right, and full stop. You want to bring flaps up before you get on the brakes. This is the runway up here. Got to find ourselves the taxiway. Again, resisting the urge to play with switches. That can all wait till we are clear of the runway. Here we go. All right. We're clear runway 3-2. So, hope that was educational for everybody. Still even always more for me to work on, learn. Got low on most of those approaches on final. Working on both, balancing that power pitch a little better. Definitely is a little easier to land the Comanche with less than full flaps. But when you do need to land short or soft, flaps is definitely how you want to go. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Drop us a comment, question, feedback. Next flight, we'll look at power on stall and short field, soft field, takeoffs and landings. So thanks for listening, joining. Happy virtual flying.